Thira Panachari Yamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Gyantimidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Yadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jatapatakamallam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatham Sahakana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astakati Sakari. Hare Krishna. I am sincerely grateful, honored, and I'm feeling very blessed to be in the presence of each and every one of you. Thank you for coming. I have been given a verse.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm looking at verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yas Patantra Iva Dvija Sadhubir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktir Bhakta Janapriya. You may go to translation, please. The Supreme Personality. Oh, it's here too. Technology makes things so conveniently complicated. It was so easy when we just said a book. We're reading from the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahman. Could everyone hear?
It starts to feed back, so we have to be careful. You have to speak a little closer to the mic, Mark. It's wireless. You could even hold it in your hand if you want.
Okay.
You want me to hold it?
No. Ooh. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahman, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. It's kind of like India here. There's feedback and back feed and there's so many things. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All the great stalwart personalities in the universe, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are fully under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully under the control of His devotee. Why is this? Because the devotee is anyabhilashita shunya. In other words, he has no material desires in his heart. His only desire is to think always of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to serve Him best. Because of this transcendental qualification, the Supreme Lord is extremely favorable to the devotees. Indeed, not only the devotees, but also the devotees of the devotees. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Paye Chekeva. Without being a devotee of a devotee, one cannot be released from material entanglement. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as Gopi Bharatu Padakamala Yorada Das Das Anudas. Thus he instructed us to become not directly servants of Krishna, but servants of the servant of Krishna. Devotees like Brahma, Narada, Vyasadev, and Shukadev Goswami are directly servants of Krishna. And one who becomes a servant of Narada, Vyasadev, and Shukadev, like the 6 Goswamis, is still more devoted. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur therefore says, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. If one very sincerely serves the spiritual master, Krishna certainly becomes favorable to such a devotee. Following the instructions of a devotee is more valuable than following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. This morning, as is done every Sunday morning, the Srimad Bhagavatam class is a recording of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I was sitting just beside our revered and beloved temple president, Swavas Prabhu, and we were listening together. And we were discussing afterward. Srila Prabhupada was explaining in profound depth the idea of the yearning for independence and all the implications and complications that come with that. He cited when he first met his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada at the time in Calcutta. Actually, we just last year renovated that building and to make it just like it was in 1922. Now it's 101 years since that happened. So please come, I invite you. The address is number 1 Ultadunga Junction Road, Calcutta, Bengal, India. He was about 25 years old. He just had his first child, he was married, and he bowed down to this holy man, and the holy man said to him at their first meeting, "You are an educated young person." please take this message of Lord Chaitanya to the Western countries and all the world. And in today's recording, Srila Prabhupada cited how he challenged. We're a dependent nation. In 1922, India was under the subjugation of the British Empire. Who will listen to our message as long as we're a dependent nation? First, we must fight for independence. And actually, that's what everybody in India was saying. Except the British. Srila Prabhupada was speaking the most passionate will of practically the entire population of his country. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this type of dependence and independence is not important. It's always changing. The real need is to understand how to be independent from birth, old age, disease, and death. And Srila Prabhupada was explaining, at that time, when everyone was striving and fighting for independence, the model place that everybody wanted to be like was the United States of America, considered the most independent nation. Yes, we already kind of did that thing with the British back in the 1700s and achieved independence and is the beacon of light for independence for the world. And Srila Prabhupada said, when I came here, I saw, he came here in 1965, 1966, that young men were being forcibly drafted into the military to fight and kill or be killed in Vietnam, which they didn't even believe in. So he was thinking, in India we didn't have a draft. This independent nation is more dependent than the dependent nations. And he was using this example that really what is independence and what is dependence. So Savas Prabhu, when I asked him, what would you like me to speak about Sunday afternoon for this class that we're all gathered, he said, speak about that dependence and independence. So I said a little prayer, and I thought of this verse. I don't know how to... This is something like, I think this is codependence. It's a part of the purport. I need a passcode. But anyways, here is the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya Gatonmayad Itaratachta. Krishna is declaring that Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord, is the origin of everything that exists. And everything and everyone is dependent on that origin, or on God. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante bambuddha bhava samanvita. In the Gita, Krishna tells, I am the source of all the material and spiritual worlds. Everything rests on me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me, serve me with all their hearts. So Krishna is Abhigya and Swarat. All-knowing and fully, completely independent. You hear that siren? Every time a siren goes by, it's a reminder that padam padam yad vipanam, there is danger at every step. Every time we hear a baby cry, we understand how by nature we're very dependent. We may say we're independent, but what if Mother Nature and the father of Mother Nature, Bhagavan, did not provide air? We're dependent on air. We're dependent on the sunlight. We're dependent on the rain. We're dependent on the gifts of Mother Earth. We're dependent on the government for protection. Sometimes we're dependent on doctors for healing us. When we're babies, we're depending on our parents. And it's not that we ever become independent. We are dependent on limitless sources at every moment. Krishna tells in Gita, Mayadyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. This entire material nature is under God's control. And we are totally under the control of nature. We have little spaces for independence. We have free will. We can fight for our rights and the rights of others, but still we're dependent. And have you ever met anybody who's not fully transcendental, that's not under the control of time? When we're really little children, we can't wait to grow up. Yes? And then we're grown up. And we just want to be a little child again. Yeah, even the oldest people, their sweetest memories is usually when they're little children. Because we must grow old, we must get diseased. And by the power of time, the body will die. And the soul will need to pass on to another place. And what is death? From a spiritual perspective, there's no such thing as death. Dehinosmin yata dehi komaram yogaram chara. Tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyate. As the embodied soul passes from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, at the time of death, the soul just passes to another body according to our consciousness. The state of consciousness that we have chosen to create by the choice of our words and activities during life. But material nature is always changing. And Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam describes the simple but subtle science behind all changes. Kala. Time. Time keeps everything in motion. time is so imperceptible. When a military invades us, we see their weapons and we see their warriors and we experience their bombs. But time is destroying everything, everyone. You can't see time. You can't taste time. You can't smell time. You can't touch time. It's so subtle. It's so imperceptible. But it's all powerful. And it never stops. And even how it's affecting us, we can only understand after durations of time the effects. When we become 70s or 80s or 90s, whatever, and we look at ourselves when we're little children in photographs, I changed. But between today and tomorrow and next week, it doesn't really seem that time has any effect at all. But it's moment by moment by moment. And Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, I am time, the controller of everything that exists within creation. So we are, by nature, dependent. But the most beautiful realization of this knowledge is being revealed in this verse today. The only person who is totally and completely and absolutely and eternally independent is the controller of all controllers. Ishvara Sarva, what is that? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigra Anadira Dira Govinda Sarva Karanakara. Ishvara Parama means the supreme controller of all controllers. We have some control. We could make changes according to our capacity. But we're totally dependent on higher power of nature and God's grace to be able to do anything. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells, I am the ability of all beings. A bird can fly because the bird doesn't go to aviation school. And actually, when you look at every airplane, they're modeled after a bird. They have a tail and they have wings, and basically it's Krishna's technology. But the difference is we need pilots and everything else, and the bird doesn't need a pilot. He's self-sufficient. And if you look at boats, just the other day I was at somebody's house in this area, and there was some ducks in a pond. And I was just looking at the ducks going in the water. And I was thinking, whoever invented the boat must have studied ducks, because they have the same technology. Almost the same design. The difference is ducks never sink. But they both have their predators. So this understanding that the Ishvara Parama, everyone has some control. We have control over what we choose. When we're driving in our car, we could choose to go backward, forward, left, or right.
We could choose to follow the laws or not follow the laws, but if you choose to not follow the laws, then you don't have no choice when the law comes to get you. So we're always under control, even with our minute little independence. But Krishna is the controller of all controllers. By his will, limitless universes within this cosmic manifestation are created. By his mere glance, all living entities within creation of all species of life are impregnated within material nature. By the glance, the time factor activates everything that is in its potential state to create this ever-changing experience of creation. So here we find the supreme controller of all controllers, the absolute Surat, independent. Actually, I was at this marriage. Wow. The controller of all controllers is proclaiming, I am completely under the control of my devotee. Krishna by his own sweet will. What is that control? Anandamayo Vyashat. The Brahma Sutra tells that the absolute truth is the source of all pleasure, the giver of all pleasure, and is always seeking pleasure. And therefore has created limitless expansions. Radha and Krishna. Radharani is Krishna's pleasure potency. Sri Radha is Krishna, who is eternally in the form of the supreme lover. And Krishna is always in the form of the supreme object of love. And that love of the supreme absolute truth with himself and herself is the supreme reality. And because of that love that the absolute truth, or we call God, has with himself and herself, Radha, Krishna, Rukmini, Dwarkadish, that supreme reality, we have all been manifest. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva buddha sanatana. Limitless living entities who are qualitatively of the same nature. We are eternal, full of knowledge and full of happiness. And what is that happiness? It's the happiness in participating in that love. Love in its highest, most pure and liberated state is prema. It's the awakening of the ecstatic love of God that is the potential and the nature of life. life itself. Because life only exists in the presence of the soul, the Atma. Our body is matter. When the soul is not in the body, the eyes have no power to see. The flesh has no power to feel. The nose cannot smell anything. The heart cannot love anything. The brain cannot think of anything. The person that is energizing, activating, and experiencing all the aspects of our sensual and emotional life is the soul, the life force. The life in a plant, the life in a tree, the life in a bird or an insect, the life in all animals, the life in all human beings and in all its variety. Is that eternal part of God, the jiva, the soul. And Jiva Goswami describes the most accessible and practical analogy to describe Radha Krishna are like the sun planet. And the jiva are like the limitless sun rays. Qualitatively, achintya beta beta tattva. The sun ray is identical to the sun planet. Is the sun ray ever dark? Is the sun ray ever freezing cold? The nature of a sun ray is heat and light. Why? Because its origin is heat and light. Identical. But quantitatively there's a difference. The sun planet is the origin and cause of all sun rays, but the sun ray is never the origin of the sun. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yovidadati kaman. The Upanishads declare this, that there are limitless living beings. We're among that category. But there's one living being who is the source of all other living beings. And all those plural living entities are forever eternally subordinate to the supreme living being. And that subordination is so beautifully explained here. We are ultimately subordinate to the infinite light of Radha Krishna's love. And in our pure state, when we're not blinded, forgetful by the covering of the ahankara, the ego. Because sometimes when there's a really big cloud in the sky, it blocks the sun. So our ego is like but the ego is not full of rainwater, it's full of a lot of pollution. And the nature of the ego, the false ego, ahankara, when the ego is polluted by this type of arrogance and greed and envy, lustful, selfish desires, anger, greed, all these things, it needs more pollution to feed it. So we become more, our success in life is to become more implicated in the disease that we already have. But when we're actually purified and free, the ananda of the soul is to experience the limitless love of God. And what does a sun ray do? It shines that love according to our capacity, whoever we may be. Our greatest potential is just to be an instrument of that love. And the beautiful nature of love is, it is our desire to be controlled by pure love. The highest ananda, the highest happiness of life itself is to realize its total dependence on God's love and just to shine that love without ego. But Krishna, who's the source of all love, he's explaining here that any and all of his innumerable jivas who has awakened or is living in that love, his greatest happiness is to be controlled and dependent on that love. So we want to be controllers, but the supreme controller wants to be controlled. We want to be independent, but the supreme independent wants to be dependent. Not on some arrogant, manipulative force, or by nature's creative potencies. It's natural. We don't want to be controlled by those things. If an earthquake comes, you can't stop it. You could try to go somewhere else, but you can't stop it. If a tidal wave comes, a tsunami, it's not that, there's some satellite that can turn it off. The forces of nature are so powerful. They're working at every moment. So it's natural. We don't want to be controlled by those things in such a way that causes harm to ourselves and our loved ones. But when love is pure, when love is without ego or manipulative selfishness, it's the nature of life itself to want nothing more than to be controlled by that love. When that little baby was crying, I saw the father and mother, they very politely took the baby outside. But actually, such a good lesson. The little baby's explaining realizations that I'm just trying to give you a direction toward. The baby is totally dependent on the parents. But why did the father run outside with the baby, and mother too? Because actually, the parents are dependent on the love that the little child is crying for. They're being controlled by it. I mean, he may have saw it as a really good excuse to leave my boring class. But even if he wanted to stay, he had to go. Not because of the law of the temple, but because he's controlled by the love of his little baby. So here we find Krishna. His greatest joy in life is to be controlled by the love of his devotees. And some people want to be God, to be the controller of all controllers. But God, the Supreme Person, wants to be controlled by love. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Nadanam na janam na sundarim kavitan vajakadisha kamaye. Mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti rahitaki tvai. He's offering this prayer to Krishna. I do not want what all the people of this world are sacrificing everything to try to achieve. It's not that he said any of these things are bad. I'll give the list in a moment. It's not that these things are bad. It's not that we don't want to use them. It's that this is not what he really wants. All of these things could be used for that purpose if we have them. He said, I do not want wealth. I do not want fame, popularity. I do not want liberation or peace of mind. I do not want great knowledge and skill. I only want to serve you with love forever. In any condition, anywhere, at any time. Put me where you like. I just want to serve you, please you. Now, if that is our motivation, then if we have wealth, if we have fame, if we have skill, if we have knowledge, that's our purpose is not to have it or enjoy it. Our perfect purpose is to serve with it. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. Krishna comes to this world again and again and again to express his love by manifesting compassion to the people of this world. Lord Chaitanya, in one place of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's taking the role of a gardener. He says, I have so many fruits, the fruits of prema, ecstatic love for Krishna. And with my two hands, how many fruits can I distribute? If you're really receiving my love and you're grateful to reciprocate with my love, just do this. Receive these fruits and help me distribute them to others. Paradukaduki. The symptom of an enlightened person is not just to be peaceful. The symptom of an enlightened person is to feel the sufferings of others and to feel the happiness of others. And to live in the light of God's compassion. With this introduction, I will now begin today's class. The more hungry you get, the more you'll enjoy the feast. So, we're all trying to serve in our own, according to our nature. But this beautiful chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's one of the most important stories in all the histories of the Vedas. And I'm going to very briefly describe, because for those of you who've been to my classes before, if I don't really struggle to be brief, I take a long time. There's a family where there's a queen and a king. The king's name is Ambarish. there's wife, there's children, there's so many responsibilities. But he was always immersed in everything he did, he was doing for the pleasure of the Lord, in the service of the Lord. And the only way we could actually serve with love is to recognize Jivera Swarupor Krishnara Nityadas. To realize that if I take a little water with my hands from the Ganges River and I offer it back to Mother Ganges, do I feel, just see, Ganges, how much I'm giving to you? How many handfuls of water is in the Mother Ganges? And she's constantly flowing to the ocean, and then it rains, and then the sun goes, and then the clouds come, and then it goes back to the Himalayan peaks, and it comes down again, and amazing. Do we have an ego when we offer? Now what if we see somebody offering, a little child with little tiny hands offering, and we're offering like 5 times more with our big hands? Or we come with a gallon bucket and we look at the child and say, look at me. I know so many more verses than you, and I can lift so much more weight than you, and I can run faster than you, and I have so much more money than you, and I'm more famous than you, and we're struggling to try to be like that. But from the perspective of Mother Ganga, you're getting it all from me, and however much you have is utterly insignificant. But Krishna tells in Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. If you offer me an entire ocean, or if you offer me a drop, if it's offered with love and devotion, I accept it. Because Krishna doesn't accept the quantity of what we give. He accepts the intention of love, devotion, gratitude, humility, and surrender in which we offer it. Of course, if we have a lot, then our love and devotion is to try to give as much as we can. It's not, I have ocean, but I'll give you a drop. With love and devotion. It has to be real. There's gratitude. There's humility. Ambarish, he was a king. Now in those days, kings were, they actually had the power of kings. He was a multi-billionaire. He was young, he was strong, he was handsome. His wife was everything like that. Everything. I don't remember the name. But everything they did was for the well-being of all their citizens, feeling they are all God's children. And my power, my role as a leader, is not to subjugate, but to serve. How I treat God's children is how I treat God. They're entrusted in my care. They were willing to give their lives or suffer any situation to help any species. That was their love. So Durvasa was very famous, extremely learned, and he was a sannyasi. He was austere. He had no home. He lived in forests and caves. He had tremendous yogic powers. He could do things that lucky nobody knows how to do in the world today. He was so powerful. He was a lifelong monk who just didn't. He lived. We see, so many histories, and he just shows up. I mean, he was kind of timeless within the frame of time. So he comes with about 10,000 disciples. And they're all totally surrendered to him to learn. And they come to Ambarish. He's living in the forest. He's fasting with his family for he's fasting because he wants to give blessings to all of his citizens. And Durvas comes with about 10,000 students, and they're hungry. Ambarish has been fasting for a year. He said, please let me get food for you. That's Krishna in the form of time. Telling me that I'm over time. Ambarish just wanted to please. Durvasa said, let me take my bath then we'll come back. But somehow or other, they were taking a long time. And at that point, Ambarish needed to break his fast for our benefit. Because as a leader, he was taking responsibility for us. If he made a mistake, the reaction could be on us. If he did it right, the blessings could be on us. That was his sense of responsibility, like a parent to a good parent to a child. So he consulted some holy people. It's time to break the fast, but I don't want to eat before my guest. He's a very, very powerful yogi who's known for getting angry. And they all said, just take one drop of water. And that's breaking a fast and not breaking a fast. When Durvas Muni, who really knows, he's like a mind reader and all that. He understood. How dare he drink a drop of water before feeding me? He came, and through his incredible mystical power, he created something to actually destroy Ambarish. And what did Ambarish do? Lord Chaitanya prayed, Ashlasya vapadaratam panashtumam. My dear Lord Krishna, I'm your servant. If you want, you could protect me. If you want, you could destroy me. If you want, you can make me brokenhearted by leaving me all alone. Whatever you want to do, I'm just here to serve. That level of love is the happiness that the soul is searching for. Rupa Goswami tells, compared to eternal peace is like a drop. And this type of unconditional love of God and unconditional extension of that love toward all beings, that is like a shoreless, bottomless ocean. Bhakti Yoga is seeking that love as our ultimate and singular true goal of life. And we harmonize everything we do in making progress toward that goal. Here is like this nuclear weapon in the form of Durvasa Muni's, fiery creation coming to devour and destroy Ambarish. And Ambarish is with folded hands. Abhay Charana Ravindare. He has no fear. Krishna, I'm yours. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also a family man. He had over 10 children. He was working in the British government at the time. He prayed, Maro birako bijo icha toha nityadasa prati tua adhikar. Krishna, if you want to kill me, here I am. If you want to protect me, here I am. Whatever you want to do, I'm yours. Such faith and trust in love. I remember, I think it was 1974, I was in a temple with a marble floor, and there was one of my best friends had just gotten married, and he had a little baby girl, and there was kirtan in the temple, and he was throwing that baby way, way up in the air. And I was thinking, no, I'm a brahmachari. I'm a monk. I'm like, no, don't do that. It wasn't even my baby, but I was thinking, if he doesn't catch her, she's going to splatter on the marble floor. And she was way up in the air, and he'd catch her. And I'd think, oh. And then he'd throw her up again. And he kept doing that through the whole kirtan. But the amazing thing is the little baby girl, when she was way, way, way up in the air, it seemed like it was really high. She was just laughing and smiling with glistening eyes because she had complete faith in the love of her father. She didn't even question whether he's going to catch me or not. It's really nice to be a baby, actually. She wasn't like, well, what if he misses? I'm dead. No, she was, she's, and I'm like, oh. And he's laughing and smiling because he's seeing her smiling and laughing, and he catches her, and he sees that she was so happy when he threw her up again. It's the natural trust in a baby's love for the mother and father. In love, there's a faith that's beyond rational thinking. We need philosophy and rational thinking to get back to that. But the love of the soul, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is expressing that. Krishna, if you want to kill me, or if you want to protect me, do what you like. Because I know you love me, and whatever's best for my eternal soul, just let me please you. Samsiddhir Haditoshana. This was the mood of Ambarish. I warned you that I might not summarize it so concisely. So Ambarish is feeling no malice toward Durvasa, who's angrily trying to kill him, and who spoke so many nasty words against Ambarish. He was saying, you're a fraud, you're a fake, you're duping people, acting like a good leader, but actually you're simply uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled senses, you're selfish. He was saying all the worst things you could say to a devotee, to Ambarish. And then he tries to kill him. And Ambarish is, Krishna, I'm yours. So in this case, Krishna sent the Sudarshan Chakra. And it dissipated that weapon. And because Durvasa Muni created the weapon, the chakra went toward Durvasa. Now Ambarish standing like this when the weapon is coming. It was totally beyond his control. But he was completely dependent on the Supreme Controller. Now the story gets really good. So, please tolerate me. What does Durvasa Muni come when the chakra's coming toward him? He runs away. He ran as fast as he can. And he was really a supernaturally fast runner. And when it was right behind him and he wasn't making any progress to get away from the chakra, he just took off and started flying. How many of us can fly without airplanes or anything? He was flying. And he was flying to other planets. He went to Lord Indra. He went to Lord Brahma. He said, Brahma, save me. Brahma said, this is Vishnu's weapon. I cannot save you. Durvasa Muni went to Lord Shiva. And actually, I'd love to tell so many stories. If you go to Chitrakoot, which is the place Ram, Sita, and Lakshman lived when they were in exile, it was the most pleasing time of their life. They were living with sages, and it was so on the bank of the Mandakini Ganga. There's a cave there. And that's the place where Durvasa Muni was born, to Anasuya and Atri Muni. Oh, I'd love to take you there. Soma, Durvasa, and Dattatreya were all born there. And Durvasa Muni is actually an expansion of Shiva. So now he's going to Shiva, in Shiva Loka, beyond creation. And he's saying, I'm your son, I'm you. Please, protect me. Shiva said, Vishnu's angry. That's beyond my jurisdiction. I can't help you. Only Vishnu could save you. Durvasa Muni went to Vaikuntha. And he fell at the feet of Lord Vishnu. And he's crying, begging, in utter desperation. I'm sorry, anything I did wrong, please forgive me and save me. This chakra's, for the last year I've been flying all over the universe, and it's always like 1 inch behind my back. And he's begging, whatever I've done wrong, please forgive me, save me. I surrender to you. And this is Lord Vishnu's response. And I'm going to actually end here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, he's speaking to Durvasa Muni, I am completely under the control of my devotees. He's speaking specifically of Ambarish. But he's specifically speaking about every spirit soul, you and me, who purify our hearts to realize our potential to receive Krishna's love and to love Krishna. Ambarish lived his whole life in compassion to others in the service of God. And we all have. We may not be kings, but the soul within our heart is not different than the soul in Ambarish's heart, in whatever body we may be in. The love is of the same pure nature. It's ultimately from the source of Sri Radha's love. Indeed, Krishna says, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. And Srila Prabhupada in this purport is citing Lord Chaitanya. Knowing what pleases Krishna. He's not asking to be a devotee of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, knowing what pleases Krishna, because he's Krishna with Radha's Mahabhav, her love. He's praying, I want to be the servant of your servants of Krishna. The next verse, the Lord is saying to Durvasa, O best of Brahmins, without saintly persons for whom I am their only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my own transcendental bliss and my own supreme opulences. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? Now we may be saying, Krishna's saying they give up everything. But Ambarish was living in a magnificent palace. And he was still taking care of his wives and children. He was doing his job. So how is he talking? Krishna saying giving up everything. So what's really being said here, it's not just the physical act of giving everything up. It's giving up the false sense of proprietorship. Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. To give up the self, the false sense that I am the proprietor, I am the controller, and I am the enjoyer. Bhoktaram jagyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutam yatmamam shantim vechyati. And even when we help people, we understand Krishna is the supreme friend of everyone. Whatever I have to help anyone, I'm like Srila Prabhupada called himself a postman. I'm just delivering Krishna's message. It's not my message. What is our position? We're just being an instrument of that love, extending that love. So what Krishna is saying, that a devotee gives up everything, that means giving up the ego. That I'm the doer, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. But to be the vessel in whatever way Krishna gives us the opportunity to serve. So one who gives up that selfish ego, Krishna says, how could I give up such a person? They've given everything for me. I give if you give totally to Krishna, Krishna gives totally to you. That doesn't mean materially. Because all this material stuff's going to go anyway. That means Krishna gives himself. I'm going to skip ahead to one of the most important statements ever made in the history of existence. Are you ready? If, for all justified reasons, you slept through the rest of my class, please just listen to this one statement. This is spoken by the supreme controller of all controllers, the God of all gods, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Lord Narayan. He's speaking to Durvasa Muni, who materially is the most powerful man in the world, but who's in desperation. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart. And I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. O Brahman, he says, I advise you. Krishna saying, I have no power to give you shelter. Only Ambarish can give you shelter. Because he's given his heart to me, he's always in my heart. And I am always in his heart. So if you try to hurt him because I'm in his heart, you're hurting me. If you love my devotee, you love me because I'm in their heart. If you hate my devotee, you're hating me. That's what's being said here. He said, I can't help you because I'm dependent on Ambarish. I'm in his heart and he's in my heart. You're coming here to Vaikuntha after you hurt him there, but he's here. Go to him. To conclude this beautiful chapter, Ambarish, he was standing for that whole year, waiting to give dinner to Durvasa. He didn't think himself better than Durvasa. He just wanted, Durvasa came to let me feed him. I'm still waiting. And Durvasa Muni comes all the way down back from Vaikuntha and comes, and this all took place in Vrindavan, in the forest of Madhuban, on the bank of the Yamuna River. We can still go to the place where this story happened. Durvasa comes, he descends. He falls on the ground and he's begging Ambarish, please give me shelter. Because the chakra was still 1 inch behind his back, even then. And what was Ambarish's mood? I just want to serve and please Durvasa Muni. Please, Lord, take this chakra away so I can serve him nicely. And then the chakra disappeared. And Durvasa Muni understood that beyond supernatural cities or powers, beyond peace of mind, beyond liberation, beyond anything anybody can achieve, is love for God. And Ambarish has that love for God. Durvasa Muni was praising him and glorifying him and begging him, please forgive me, I'm just like very ignorant, but now I understand. And he's praising Ambarish and he's glorifying him. And what does Ambarish say? I've been fasting all this time because I want to serve you. Please have prasad. So I kind of feel like that, that you all want prasad. And I think this is a good place to conclude, Michael. But this chanting of the holy names of God, this Harinam Sankirtan, this Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing the glories of the Lord, in the company of those who are striving to love the Lord. This japa of individual, private, taking shelter of the names of the Lord. Kirtan, we're together, we're taking shelter, and we're trying to, with our collective energies, give that shelter to all beings in the universe by loudly chanting. It cleanses the heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Satya Kabunoi Sravanadi Sudhichiti Kodiye Yudoi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, this love for Krishna is the deepest, truest, purest potential that is the ultimate goal of life. By associating with those who are striving to love the Lord, and by chanting the names of the Lord, our heart is cleansed. And the light of Krishna's love, Radha's love, shines through us. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. That is real happiness. When Srila Prabhupada said, chant and be happy, there was a lot of philosophical wisdom behind that. That is the gift that Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas have brought us. And with grateful hearts, we want to receive that as the most precious, most valuable of all benedictions. And by receiving it, by taking shelter of Krishna's names, by taking shelter of these wonderful books Srila Prabhupada has given us, by sharing this knowledge with each other, we want to assist them in sharing this love with the world. And where there's the greatest need, there's the greatest opportunity to serve. So we can really be disturbed and depressed by what's going on in the world on so many levels today. And that's the nature of a soft and caring heart, to be feeling for the problems that are there. But we take shelter of the opportunity we all have to chant God's names and spread God's love everywhere. Thank you very much. So I know it's late, and if anybody who wants to go, please do as you like. But we'll have just a few minutes of kirtan. And I request you, because we don't have much time, please dance. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhastatyate Satarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda. Loudly please. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Go Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Gaur Premanandi. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.